Security Officer Kim Tae-ho walked through the dark lower levels of Harmony Station. The air smelled bad down here. I'd dripped water everywhere. This was not the pretty part of humanity's greatest space station that aliens usually saw. Tae-ho checked his plasma rifle. His black uniform was clean and pressed. He took pride in looking professional. Humans had to show they were strong and organized. The galaxy was watching them, above his head. The massive station hummed with life. Harmony Station was home to 2 million humans and thousands of alien visitors. It floated in space near the jump gate to 3 different star systems. Ships came and went every hour carrying trade goods across the galaxy. But down here in Level 7, things were different. This was where the garbage went, where the broken machines got dumped, where people came when they had nowhere else to go. Tae-ho turned a corner and stopped, near the big cargo bay doors. He saw something that made his face twist with anger. A woman was digging through a trash container. Her clothes were ripped and dirty. Her hair was messy and hadn't been washed in days. "Great," Tae-ho muttered. "Just what we need." He looked round and saw exactly what he feared. 3 blue-skinned Vulcan merchants stood nearby loading cargo onto their ship. They were tall and thin with forearms each. Their big black eyes were watching the human woman dig through garbage. The Vulcans were clicking to each other in their strange language. Tae-ho didn't need to understand their words to know what they were thinking. They were judging all humans based on what they saw. Tae-ho's jaw tightened. Humans had worked so hard to earn respect in the galaxy. When Earth first made contact with alien races 50 years ago, everyone thought humans were weak, too emotional, too violent, too stupid to survive among the stars. But humans proved them wrong. They built amazing space stations. They created powerful weapons. They showed they could trade and fight and explore just like any other species. And now this homeless woman was making them all look bad. Tae-ho marched over to her. His boots made loud sounds on the metal floor. "Hey, you there?" The woman looked up from the trash container. She was holding a broken piece of machinery. Her face was dirty, but her eyes were bright and sharp, very sharp. "Move along, lady," Tae-ho said with disgust in his voice. "You're making humans look pathetic in front of the aliens." The woman studied his face for a moment. She seemed to be thinking about something. Then she spoke in a quiet voice that was surprisingly clear. "I'm Park Jimin." Her words were calm and polite. But something about the way she said them made Tae-ho feel strange for just a second. Like she was someone important. But that was crazy. She was just a homeless person. "I don't care what your name is," Tae-ho snapped. "Get lost before I rest. You for vagrancy. This is a restricted area." He waved his hand toward the upper levels. "There are shelters on level 3. Go find one. Stop embarrassing our entire species." The Vulcan merchants were still watching. One of them made a sound that might have been laughter. Tae-ho felt his face get hot with shame and anger. Jimin looked at the aliens too, for just a moment. Her eyes got very cold. But then she nodded and started gathering her few belongings. An old backpack, a water bottle, some pieces of metal and wire. "Sorry, officer," she said softly. "I'll leave now." She stood up slowly like a bone's hurt. Then she shuffled toward the exit with her head down. She looked exactly like what she was supposed to be, a broken, helpless human who had given up on life. But as she walked away, the 3 Vulcan merchants suddenly got very interested. They stopped loading their cargo and started clicking rapidly to each other. Their forearms moved in quick gestures. Tae-ho noticed their reaction, but didn't understand it. He was just glad the embarrassing woman was leaving. Maybe now the aliens would stop staring and go back to their business. That's right. he called. After Jimin, "Keep moving and stay out of the important areas." Jimin didn't look back. She disappeared round a corner into the maze of corridors that made up the station's lower levels. The Velkans watched her go. Then one of them pulled out a small communication device and started speaking into it in there. Clicking language. The call lasted 7 whole minutes. Taiho didn't pay attention to the aliens anymore. He was already thinking about his next patrol route. He had no idea that the homeless woman he had just insulted was about to change his life forever. And he definitely didn't know that the Velkan merchants were not really merchants at all. 3 days passed quietly on Harmony Station. Taiho almost forgot about the homeless woman. He was busy with his regular duties, checking cargo ships, breaking up fights between drunk spaces, making sure the alien visitors followed station rules. On Tuesday morning, Taiho was drinking coffee in the security office when his communication device beeped. A message appeared on the small screen. No sender name, just coordinates and a few words. Illegal. Weapon smuggling. Sector 7. Warehouse 1 to become alone. Taiho frowned. Anonymous tips were always suspicious, but weapon smuggling was serious business. If someone was moving illegal guns through Harmony Station, he had to check it out. He grabbed his plasma rifle and extra energy cells. His body armor felt heavy but comfortable. He had worn it every day for 5 years. The black plates could stop most alien weapons. At least that's what the manual said. Sector 7 was in the old part of the station. These warehouses were built 50 years ago when Harmony Station was much smaller. Now most of them sat empty. The lights were dim. The air recycling systems made strange noises. Taiho walked through the quiet corridors. His boots echoed off the metal walls. Something felt wrong, but he couldn't figure out what. The place was too quiet. Usually there were at least a few maintenance robots rolling around. Warehouse 1 to be was at the end of a long hallway. The door was slightly open. Taiho could see darkness inside. He pulled out his plasma rifle and checked the charge. Full power. Security patrol. He called out, "Anyone in there?" No answer. Taiho pushed the door open and stepped inside. The warehouse was huge and mostly empty. A few old shipping containers sat in one corner. Dust floated in the air. Emergency. Lights cast long shadows everywhere. Behind him, the heavy door slammed shut with a loud bang. Taiho spun round and tried the door handle. Locked. His heart started beating faster. This was definitely a trap. "Welcome, human security pest." The voice came from the shadows, deep and harsh, speaking standard language, but with a strong alien accent. 6 figures stepped into the light. Velkans, but not the merchant types that usually visited the station. These were warriors, tall and muscular with 4 powerful arms each. Their blue skin was covered in scars. They wore black combat armor and carried military-grade plasma rifles. The leader had a metal plate covering half his face, old battle damage. His 4 hands held a weapon that looked like it could punch through a spaceship hull. "You have been very annoying," the leader said. His voice sounded like gravel in a metal can. "Always checking our cargo, always asking questions, always watching." Taiho raised his rifle. "You're under arrest for illegal entry and threatening a security officer." The Velkans made a sound like laughing, but it wasn't a happy sound. "Foolish human," the leader hissed. "You think your little weapon can hurt us? We are Velkan Shadow God. We killed your kind in the border wars." Taiho's blood went cold. Shadow God were elite Velkan assassins. They were supposed to be disbanded after the peace treaty. What were they doing on Harmony Station? The peace treaty forbids military forces in neutral space. Taiho said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Treaties are just paper. Another Vulcan said, "Soon there will be no more treaties, no more neutral space, no more annoying human security officers." The leader raised his plasma rifle. The weapon hummed as it charged up. Bright blue energy swirled inside the barrel. "You interfered with our operations for the last time, human." Taiho dove behind a shipping container just as 6 plasma bolts lit up the warehouse. The energy beams hit the metal walls and exploded in showers of sparks. The air filled with smoke and the smell of burned metal. Taiho fired back from behind. Cover! His shots were accurate, but the Vulcan's armor was too strong. The plasma bolts bounced off like raindrops. More enemy fire came at him. One bolt hit the shipping container and blew a hole right through it. Another beam grazed his shoulder. Even through his armor, the heat was incredible. Taiho tried to call for backup on his radio. "Security control. This is Officer Kim. I need immediate assistance in Sector 7. Multiple armed hostiles. Static filled his earpiece. The radio was being jammed. The Vulcans spread out to surround him. They moved like professional soldiers. No wasted motion. No panic. They had done this many times before. You cannot hide forever, little human. The leader called out, "We have all day." A plasma bolt hit the floor near Taiho's feet. The metal melted instantly. Another shot came from his left side, then his right. They were closing in. Taiho rolled to a new position behind some old machinery. But there was nowhere left to run. The warehouse was sealed. His weapon was almost out of power. His armor had cracks in 3 places. A 4th plasma bolt caught him in the chest. The impact threw him backwards. Pain exploded through his body as the energy burned through his armor and into his ribs. He could smell his own flesh cooking. Another shot hit his left leg. Taiho screamed and collapsed. Blood poured out of the wounds. His vision started to go dark around the edges. The Vulcans walked toward him slowly. Their weapons were still charged and ready. Removing key humans will make conquest easier. One of them said in broken standard, "Soon Harmony Station will belong to the Vulcan Empire." The leader stood over Taiho and aimed his rifle at the human's head. "Any last words, security pest?" Taiho could barely breathe. His radio crackled with static and died completely. No one was coming to help him. In a few seconds, he would be dead. The Vulcan leader's finger tightened on the trigger. Taiho closed his eyes and waited for death. Then something impossible happened. A section of the ceiling above them exploded downward. Metal pieces scattered everywhere. Through the hole in the ventilation shaft, a human figure dropped like a silent shadow. It was the homeless woman, Jimin. But she wasn't moving like a homeless person anymore. She landed behind the Vulcans without making a sound. Her bare feet touched the floor like a cat. In one fluid motion, she rose from her crouch and struck the nearest warrior in the neck with 2 fingers. The big alien's eyes went wide. He made a choking sound and collapsed like his bones had turned to water. His plasma rifle clattered across the floor. The other 5 Vulcans spun round in surprise. "What the?" The leader started to say. Min was already moving. She rolled forward and grabbed the fallen rifle. Her hands found the controls instantly, like she had used Vulcan weapons 1,000 times before. Impossible. One warrior hissed, "Humans cannot move so fast." Jimin didn't answer. She fired 3 precise shots that found tiny gaps in the Vulcan's armor, places where the chest plates connected to the shoulder guards, spots that should have been protected but weren't. 2 more warriors dropped. Their armor was smoking from the inside. The leader roared in anger and fired his massive rifle. The plasma bolt lit up the whole warehouse. But Jimin wasn't there anymore. She had rolled behind a support beam faster than the eye could follow. She knows our armor weak points. Another Velkan said in their clicking language. How does she? No. Jimin understood their words. She answered in perfect Velkan, her voice cold as space. Because I helped design the weapons that killed your people in the border wars. The aliens froze in shock. No human was supposed to speak their language that well. Jimin used their surprise to attack. She threw a piece of metal debris at the lights above. The warehouse went dark except for the glow from alien weapons in the darkness. She became death itself. The Velkans had better night vision than humans. But Jimin moved like she could see in total blackness. She flowed between them like smoke, like water, like something that wasn't quite human anymore. She struck pressure points that dropped warriors twice her size. She used their own weapons against them. She turned their superior strength into weakness by making them hit each other in the dark. Velkan tried to grab her with all four arms. She slipped away and used his momentum to throw him into a wall. The impact made a sound like a starship hitting an asteroid. Another warrior fired wildly, trying to hit her with area effect bursts. Jimin guided his shots so they hit his own teammates instead. The Velkan's own plasma fire caught them inside their armor. What are you? The leader screamed. He was the last one standing. His metal faceplate was cracked. Green blood ran down his arm. Jimin stepped into the light from his weapon. She looked small and fragile next to the massive alien warrior, but her eyes burned with something. That made the Velkan take a step back. I'm someone who lost everything to your kind, she said quietly, and I've spent 5 years learning exactly how to kill you. The leader raised his rifle. Jimin moved faster than physics should allow. She was beside him before he could fire. Her hand found a nerve cluster on his neck that humans weren't supposed to know about. The warrior's weapon fell from his hands. He toppled over like a cut tree. His armor made a loud crash as he hit the floor. The warehouse went silent except for the hum of damaged lights. Jimin stood over the fallen aliens. None of them were moving. Some were unconscious. Others would never move again. In less than 2 minutes, she had defeated 6 elite Velkan warriors who could have destroyed a squad of human soldiers. She walked over to where Taiho lay bleeding. Her homeless disguise was gone. She moved with the confidence of someone who had commanded armies, someone who had fought in wars among the stars. How? Taiho gasped. Blood ran from his mouth. His chest felt like it was on fire. Jimin knelt beside him. Her hands moved over his wounds with the skill of a military medic. She tore pieces from her ragged clothes and pressed them against the plasma burns to stop her. Bleeding, stay still, she said. Her voice was gentle now. Not the cold weapon she had used against the Velkans. You're hurt bad, but you live. She pulled out a small device from her backpack. It looked like medical equipment, but more advanced than anything Taiho had seen. She injected something into his neck. The pain began to fade. This will help with the shock, she explained. And accelerate healing. Taiho stared at her in amazement. You are not homeless. You're military. Special forces. Jimin smiled sadly. I was a lot of things once, before the war took everything away. She worked on his wounds with hands that had clearly done this before, many times, in many different wars across the galaxy. The Velkans called you a pest, she said. That means you were doing your job well. You were watching them, making them nervous. They said something about conquest. Taiho whispered, taking over Harmony Station. Jimin's face went dark. They're not the only ones. There are more coming. A lot more. She finished bandaging his wounds and helped him sit up against a shipping container. Can you move? Taiho tested his legs. They hurt, but they worked. I think so. We need to call security. Alert the station commander. We will. Jimin said. "But first, there's something you need to know about who I really am." Jimin sat back on her heels and looked at Taiho with those sharp eyes. The eyes that had seemed so strange when he first met her 3 days ago. Now, he understood why. They were the eyes of someone who had seen too much war. "I'm Dr. Park Jimin," she said quietly. Her voice was different now, stronger, more confident. "Former Director of Xenobiology Defense for the Human Colonial Fleet. Veteran of the Vulcan Border Wars." Taiho's mouth fell open. Every human in the galaxy knew that name. Dr. Park Jimin was a legend. She had created the weapons that won the border wars. She had saved millions of human lives by figuring out how to fight the Vulcans, the Dr. Park. He whispered, "But you're supposed to be dead. The news feeds said you died in the Kepler-7 attack 5 years ago." Jimin nodded sadly. "I let them think that. It was easier than the truth." She pulled out a small medical scanner and ran it over Taiho's wounds. The device beeped softly as it checked his vital signs. "Your injuries are healing well. The combat stims I gave you are working." "But why?" Taiho asked. "Why fake your death? Why live like a homeless person on this station?" Jimin was quiet for a long moment. She stared at the unconscious Vulcans, scattered round the warehouse. "Because the war never really ended," she said finally. She reached into her backpack and pulled out a small data pad. It looked old and worn, but when she activated it, the screen showed classified military files, star charts, troop movements, intelligence reports. 5 years ago, I was living on Kepler-7 with my husband and daughter. She began. We thought the war was over. The peace treaty was signed. The Vulcans were supposed to stay in their own territory. The data pad showed pictures of a beautiful colony world. Green forests, blue oceans, cities full of happy families. But some Vulcans didn't want peace. Jimin continued. Shadow Guard units started hitting remote colonies, killing civilians, making it look like accidents or pirate attacks. Taiho saw the pain in her eyes. "Your family." "My husband Lee Minho was a terraforming engineer. My daughter Sujin was 8 years old. She loved to draw pictures of the alien flowers that grew on Kepler-7. Jimin's voice got very quiet. The Shadow Guard killed them both, along with 3,000 other colonists. She showed him more files on the data pad, photos of destroyed cities, casualty reports, evidence of Vulcan weapons being used. The Colonial Fleet Command didn't want to restart the war, she said, so they covered it up. Called it a mining accident, gave the families some money and told them to stay quiet. That's horrible, Taiho said. I tried to tell the truth, but then I started getting death threats, attempts on my life. Someone in the government wanted me silenced. G-Men closed the data pad, so I faked my death and went underground. She gestured to her ragged clothes and dirty appearance. Living as a homeless person is perfect cover. Nobody looks at you. Nobody asks questions. You become invisible. But why here? Why Harmony Station? Jimin stood up and walked to one of the fallen Vulcans. She pulled off his helmet and showed Taiho the warrior's face. The alien had tattoos round his. Eyes, military, rank symbols, because this is where they're planning their next attack. She said, Harmony Station is the hub for 3-star systems. Control this place and you control all trade and communication in this sector. She activated her. Data pad again. This time, it showed security footage from around the station, Vulcan ships coming and going, cargo containers being loaded and unloaded. Everything looked normal. Those merchants you saw 3 days ago aren't really merchants. G-Men explained. They're advanced scouts. They've been mapping out defenses for months. The data pad showed thermal scans of the Vulcan cargo containers. instead of trade goods. They were full of weapons, military equipment, enough firepower to level half the station. They're smuggling weapons to sweep cells throughout human space, G-Min said. When they give the signal, every major human colony will be hit at the same time. Tao felt sick. How many people? 50 million. Maybe more. G-Min's voice was ice cold. They want to cripple humanity so badly that we'll surrender without a fight. She showed him star charts with red marks on dozens of human worlds. They've been planning this for 5 years, ever since the peace treaty was signed. We have to warn someone, Tao said. The station commander. Colonial Fleet Headquarters. I've been trying, G-Min said. But I'm officially dead. My security clearances are gone. No one will listen to a homeless woman with wild conspiracy theories. She knelt down and started searching through the dead Velkan's equipment. But now we have proof. These Shadow Guard warriors weren't supposed to be here. Their weapons are military grade. Their armor has unit markings. She pulled out a communication device from the leader's belt, and this contains their orders, details about the attack plan. Maybe enough to convince the authorities. Tao tried to stand up. His legs were shaky, but the medical treatment was working. What do we do now? Jimin looked at him with respect. Now we fight back. You've been doing good work. Tao, watching them, making them nervous. That's why they tried to kill you. She handed him one of the Velkan plasma rifles. But we can't do this alone. There are others like me, people who lost everything in the war, people who never stopped fighting, others. Former military, intelligence agents, scientists, engineers, all of us supposedly dead or missing. Jimin smiled for the first time since he'd known her. We call ourselves the Ghost Network, and we've been waiting for the right moment to strike back. She activated her data pad one more time. This time it showed a communication channel with dozens of active users all across human space. The dead were coming back to life. The moment is now, she said. Jimin's fingers flew across her data pad as she sent encrypted messages to contacts across the galaxy. Within minutes, responses started coming back. Dozens of them, then hundreds. They're all responding, she said with excitement in her voice. My network is still active. Taiho watched over her shoulder as the messages appeared. They came from every human colony, mining stations in the asteroid belt, research outposts on distant moons, trading hubs near alien space, confirmed Velkan military ships hiding in the Centauri Nebula. One message read, at least 50 vessels, weapons cache, found on New Tokyo. Said another, enough explosives to destroy the orbital shipyards. Shadow Guard teams identified on 7 different worlds. Came a third report. Jimin's network wasn't just homeless people. They were janitors in government buildings, mechanics working on alien ships, food service workers in military bases. All of them invisible, all of them watching. This is incredible, Taiho said. How many people are in your network? 3,000 active agents, Jimin replied. Plus another 10,000 part-time informants. We've been building this for 5 years. She showed him a galaxy map on her data pad. Red dots marked every confirmed Velkan position. Blue dots showed where her agents were stationed. The blue dots outnumbered the red ones by 10 to 1. The Velkans think they're invisible, Jimin said. But we see everything. A priority message flashed on the screen. It was from someone called Wrench on the orbital shipyards above them. Emergency, the message read. Velkan fleet moving out of the nebula. 57 ships heading for a human space. They'll reach the outer colonies in 6 hours. Jimin's face went pale. They're starting the attack early. Something spooked them. She looked at the unconscious Velkans around them, probably these idiots missing their check-in call. More messages flooded in. Velkan sleeper cells were activating across human space. Bombs were going off on 3 different worlds. The war had begun again. "We have to get this information to Colonial Fleet Command," Taiho said. "Right now." "They won't believe us," Jimin said. "I'm officially dead, remember, and you're just a station security officer." But then a data pad chimed with an incoming call. The ID showed Admiral Kim Hae-jin, commander of the 3rd Fleet. Ji-min stared at the screen in shock. "That's impossible. How did she get this channel?" She answered the call. Admiral Kim's face appeared on the small screen. She was an older woman with grey hair and tired eyes, the kind of eyes that had seen too many battles. "Dr. Park Ji-min," the Admiral said. "It's good to see you alive." "Admiral Kim, how did you?" "I've been watching your Ghost network for 2 years," the Admiral said, "waiting for the right moment to make contact. That moment is now." The Admiral's image flickered as her ship moved through hyperspace. "We intercepted Velkan. Communications an hour ago. They're moving to attack. But thanks to your intelligence, we're ready for them." She turned to speak to someone off-screen. "All ships, jump to hyperspace. Execute Operation Ghostwatch on Taiho's security scanner." He could see dozens of human warships appearing round Harmony Station. They had been hiding in the asteroid field, waiting. "You knew this was coming?" Taiho asked. Admiral Kim nodded. "Dr. Park's network has been feeding us intelligence for months. We've been preparing for this day." Through the warehouse windows, they could see the battle beginning. Human ships engaged the Velkan fleet in the space round the station. Plasma cannons lit up the darkness like artificial stars. Jimin activated the main display screen in the warehouse. It showed the tactical situation across human space. Her agents were coordinating with military units everywhere. On New Tokyo, Marines raided Velkan weapon caches guided by intelligence from a street sweeper who had been watching the aliens for months on Kepler Prime. Orbital defense platforms opened fire on cloaked Velkan ships that only a food vendor had noticed. Landing. On Earth itself, a janitor in the Senate building stopped an assassination attempt on the colonial president. "Your people are everywhere," Taiho said in amazement. "The Invisible Army," Jimin replied. "People the Velkans never thought to watch." The space battle was turning in humanity's favor. The Velkan ships were powerful, but they were outnumbered. More importantly, the humans knew exactly where they were and what they were planning. "Velkan fleet is retreating," Admiral Kim announced. Over the comm, "All colonies report successful defense. The invasion has failed." On the tactical display, the red dots representing enemy ships were disappearing. Some destroyed, others fleeing back to Velkan space. The coordinated attack had fallen apart. "You saved us all," Taiho said as they watched the enemy ships retreat on the command center screens. Ji-min smiled. Sadly, she looked tired. The weight of 5 years of secret war was finally showing on her face. "Humanity's strength isn't in our shiny stations or powerful weapons," she said quietly. "It's in people willing to sacrifice everything, even their identity, to protect others." She started gathering her few belongings, the ragged backpack, the worn clothes that had been her disguise for so long. "What will you do now?" Taiho asked. "The war is over. You can go back to your real life." Jimin shook her head. "The war is never really over. There will always be threats, always enemies who think humans are weak." She walked toward the warehouse exit. Already she was changing back into the homeless woman that nobody noticed, the invisible guardian who watched from the shadows. "Besides," she said with a small smile, "someone has to keep an eye on the new aliens who visit this station. Make sure they're really just merchants." She faded back into the shadows of the lower levels. And Taiho returned to his patrol with new understanding, the woman he'd scorned. As humanity's shame was actually its greatest guardian dot as he walked through the corridors of Harmony Station, he looked at every person differently now. The janitor mopping the floor, the cook serving food in the cafeteria, the maintenance worker fixing a broken pipe. Any one of them might be humanity's secret weapon. Sometimes the most powerful humans were the ones who appeared weakest. The end.